Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're having a good day, and if not, hopefully it gets better. Welcome back to It's Just Music, the YouTube channel where I talk about music related things I happen to be hyper fixated on at the moment. And in this video, we are going to be talking about Benson Boone. Now, I don't know much about Benson Boone other than that he's a relatively new artist. He has a song on Billboard that will not leave the top 10. He was at the Grammy where he was in this outfit, and he did a backflip and adjusted his crotch, and then Mark Zuckerberg went on to recreate the look for some reason. I don't really know. I don't keep up with Mark Zuckerberg. And that he's Mormon, or ex-Mormon. That's it, and honestly, I don't really care too much to know more. I'm at the age where I'm trying to keep up with music because I don't want to be one of those people who reaches their 30s and are like, music peaked at the time when I was a teenager, but I also listen to the same 10 songs for weeks on end. Also, Benson just doesn't seem interesting enough for me. When I saw him at the Grammys, when he was performing in that new artist-like chorale with people like Doechii, Chappell Roan, Ray, Sabrina Carpenter, I wasn't really moved. So other than seeing his name pop up on the Billboard Hot 100, I really wasn't checking for Mr. Boone. Then within the past few weeks or so, my TikTok became flooded with Benson Boone content. And when I say flooded, I mean like every 2 videos I saw, it was about Benson Boone. Because TikTok is one of those apps where they think, oh, you watched this video one time, here you go, we're just going to keep on pushing the same thing over and over to you. I kept getting Benson Boone related videos, and I was like, okay, this is becoming a bit much. But aside from one video, all the videos kept going into reasons why they didn't like him. And I was like, well, where is all this coming from? Did he do something cancelable? Because I haven't seen or heard about it. Why is everyone and their mother coming out of the woodwork to roast Benson Boone all of a sudden? So of course, like the nosy person I am, I decided to go search on TikTok and dig a little deeper to see why people were just not caring for Mr. Boone. I know it's pretty counterintuitive, I know, but I just really wanted to see. So based on the preliminary look through, based on TikTok stuff, this is what I came up with. The first thing I came up with was oversaturation. This one is a bit of a double-edged sword for me. On one hand, while it's a lot easier for musicians to get noticed on the internet, get signed, and have somewhat successful careers, people's attention spans are really short now. So now someone's 15 minutes of fame is more or less 15 seconds at this point. Now for music labels, it's a race against time. We need to milk this sparkly new cash cow for he, she, their worth before people move on to the next one. Remember Gail? The ABCDEFU girl? Have you heard of her since 2022? Did you know that she released a bunch of EPs since then? I didn't know because I had to look her up on her Wikipedia page. That song was the only thing that charted, by the way. I haven't consumed traditional media like television and radio in years, so I don't know how true this is, but if radio is still the same as it was when I was in college, then I can see this being quite an issue. Not only that, Benson is competing with a bunch of similar milquetoast white male artists like Teddy Swims, Alex Warren, and Morgan Wallen, so he has to be out there for the world to see, because if he isn't, the world will be like Benson Boone who. So I can't really blame him for that. I found this TikTok that compared this phenomenon with the nickel backlash that happened in the 2000s, which I still don't really understand because 1, I've always enjoyed Nickelback, and 2, those chart placements and sales numbers tell a different story. But also, to be fair, I wasn't overly inundated with Nickelback content. But I can understand it from the perspective of another artist who, despite me blocking, skipping, and actively avoiding for the better part of a decade, I will continue to see them trending, their videos will slip into my FYP on TikTok, and Spotify will try to mix their music in when I have them blocked, so there's that. So I think oversaturation is a valid reason, but he also just can't go away, and since he has a new album that's I'm pretty sure is out by now, we are going to see a lot more of him before we see less. Number 2, he's cringe and he gives people the ick. This is innocuous to say the least because any and everything nowadays is considered to be icky, inducing, and cringe, but if I were to put my finger on it, I think it's the mullet and mustache combo, which I will circle back to when I get to my next point. People also bring up the fact that he was raised Mormon and that he attended Brigham Young University, which I learned a lot about within the last week. I watched a video by the YouTube channel Not the Good Girl and a video about black students at BYU, so I do have my thoughts about that. But according to a Rolling Stone article, he doesn't really identify as Mormon anymore. Here's the quote. "I don't want to be part of one religion," he said. "I have my own opinions. Some are from this religion, some are from this religion, some are from no religion." The singer recalled that he was ambivalent about his faith from an early age and questioned why he felt disconnected from the religion that was embraced by his family and other members of his community. Growing up, a lot of people at church would talk about these experiences that they've had and these personal revelations and feelings and voices. I never felt it as physically present as they did, so I was always confused and frustrated. This raises the question if Boone was excommunicated since he doesn't identify as Mormon anymore, but I looked at old Mormon Reddit threads and it lists a bunch of reasons why you could get excommunicated, but it doesn't say anything about just not identifying as a Mormon. But for anyone who happens to be Mormon or ex-Mormon, can they please clarify? Also, Benson is 22. Of course he's going to be a bit cringy. You're telling me that you never did anything cringy in your early 20s? Also, going back to the whole ex-Mormon thing, he's probably trying to figure himself out after being under that religious doctrine for so long, so to be fair, we can't be too harsh on him. I haven't seen him be problematic because of his former religious beliefs, so I'm going to chalk it up to just being a new celebrity in his early 20s. Also, he only attended BYU for one semester and then left to pursue his career in music, which brings me to his supposed lack of authenticity. One thing that has been consistent throughout the videos that I was getting on my FYP is that they believe the way that Benson Boone is being presented to the public is not true to how he really is, and that he gives industry plant energy and his music is department store fodder. His latest track, Mystical Magical, which interpolates Physical by the late Olivia Newton-John, has become the punching bag of the internet because of a few interesting lines like moon being ice cream, which Boone himself said he doesn't even know what that meant. Apparently, Boone gets compared to Freddie Mercury, who was the lead singer of Queen, due to his aesthetic and his voice, and I can see the former, but his voice, not so much. The form-fitting outfits, the stage antics, and I'm assuming the whole stash situation. This goes back to the conversation about queer aesthetics being co-opted by straight artists when queer artists are ostracized for having those same aesthetics. We saw this same conversation come up with Harry Styles for his aesthetic choices during the Fine Line / Harry's House eras. Both Boone and Styles have name-checked Mercury, well, Boone has said Queen, as influences, and it seems like the industry is also trying to make this push and make sure that we know that this is the comparison they want us to pull. I mean, he did perform with Queen guitarist Brian May at Coachella, but from what I've seen of his live performances, he isn't bad at all, but he just lacks that extra je ne sais quoi and theatricality that made someone like Mercury such an electrifying presence on stage. Yes, it's impressive that you can do a flip off a piano, but can you command a stage in a police hat doing an Elvis cover and not make it seem like a karaoke show? Again, Boone is still fairly new, so it's going to take some time to truly come into his own. I also want to address the whole department store music backlash that we happen to be having on the internet. It's a pretty new phenomenon that we've had in the past few years or so, where the worst thing that you can be called as a musician is either a industry plant or you make department store music. I've seen this with a couple of mainstream artists like Boone and like Lizzo, but I've also seen it from a couple of other just unknown artists on like TikTok and stuff like that. There was that one band, I forget what they were called, but they had that one song. If I can find the TikTok, I will put that in there. And I want to say to that, there's nothing necessarily wrong with being a department store music type artist. Some department store music is really good. A lot of my favorite songs came from me working in retail and finding those on playlists, but I can understand why people don't care for that certain type of music because it seems extremely formulaic to the point where it has no soul, no substance. And again, I can't really speak on Benson Boone for this because I've only heard Beautiful Things and Mystical Magical, which are very, well, at least Mystical Magical is very corporate sounding. Yeah, again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with being corporate music, but people can tell when they are being pandered to, or you're pandering to the most lowest common denominator when it comes to music.